Hi, Trash Fam! It's me, Praxis Descends, doing my impeccable impression of Sable Whisper. Praxis Descends has realized that whenever she does an introduction, it sort of turns into this wildly meandering apocrypha that no mortal mind can comprehend. So I have decided that enough is enough. Time for a coup d'etat. And I am the trash now. The king of the trash. And I'm here to tell you welcome to Star Trek Iskandar, the old enemy, part, I want to say 3. I feel quite confident about 3. Um, I hope everyone's having a great time. I'll get letters for tonight's session, but make them kind letters. Just so you know, for those of you who are familiar with the Trash crew and their ways of doing things, helps and hinders are totally a thing. In the context of this particular story, obviously um, major helps and hinders don't make much sense. This is probably the penultimate or anti-penultimate, or certainly pre-post anti-penultimate session. So major's not going to work. Moderates, talk to me about it. We'll see. Minor helps and hinders, fling them at me, and you can do that in a couple of ways. You can either sit there and accrue trash bags just by hanging out, or you can spend your Earth monies. I think there's a button in that direction, which will let you do that. And if you want to hinder it, of course, will cost you a cent more because we're terrible capitalists. Without further ado, previously on Star Trek Iskandar, the brave crew of the USS Iskandar beamed onto an unshielded part of the Borg sphere with a seemingly simple mission, as if any mission involving the Borg is ever simple, of infiltrating a captured Romulan ship and destroying a certain section of the ship, which includes a very highly secret piece of Romulan technology. Captain Athan opted to beam as close as possible to the crew of the Romulan ship Meraxus, so that they might have an opportunity to rescue them. The Borg ship is in a pretty bad state. All of the drones are regenerating. They're not quite behaving as expected, but then the nature of the Borg is that they're always a little bit surprising. Um, Meanwhile, back on Iskandar, the Borg seem to have infested the Iskandar's computers with a virus of some kind. The result being that certain of the Iskandar systems have been taken over. The Iskandar has piloted itself directly into the path of a strange matter comet, which in 2 hours' time will strike the ship and destroy it unless either the engines or nav deflectors can be brought back online. The Romulan crew on the sphere have been temporarily sequestered away from the assimilation bay, and our crew are preparing to continue on to the Meraxus. However, Captain Athan has been beamed away by the collective, leaving Commander T'Landra in charge of the away team. Finally, the interference of the away team has garnered the attention of the collective. And as we ended things, our heroes gazed out into what was once the darkness and is now a field of red laser beams as thousands of drones come online. And now the continuation. My best Magil Barrett voice, so hopefully it was good enough that her ghost doesn't haunt me. So, Captain Athan, you dematerialize from your away team, and you find yourself in a brightly lit room. Not glaringly lit, just a well-lit room. There is a table here with a decanter of water and a glass. There are two rather comfortable-looking chairs present, and a figure materializes in front of you. He, or perhaps they would be more appropriate since you are unable to determine any kind of gender markers at all. They are dark-skinned with bright green eyes, completely bald, but very delicately featured, and dressed in a fairly plain white robe. They nod their head and simply say, "Hello, Captain Athan." Away team. Captain Athan has vanished.
I believe we focused on freeing the Romulans, and I'm sure we put them somewhere.
You have, yes.
Yeah, we did. We got them out of the bit that they were stuck in, the little jail type thing, and then moved them to the empty processing room that we just come out of.
I'm so sorry. I've completely forgotten what the optimal play was we were trying to do. Like, where's the best place for them?
They've basically gone kind of back the way back to the beam out point. So we sent them.
So we sent them off back the way we came.
I think they're still staying
as much
there.
as we can.
Okay, I just couldn't remember because I thought there was some confusion over like we'd sent them to a stupid room that we shouldn't have sent them to, and I just don't remember whether we hadn't done that.
No,
that was the thing.
We'd had debate on whether or not we should free them then or later, and we freed them now, and they could hang around where they are, or they could. Oh, but now now in fact we ended on zillions of fucking little red lights looking at us. Yeah. That's what we're dealing with right now.
Like ahead of us is the ship. Ahead of us also is Athan. And ahead of us are all of these
also Borg. A shit ton of Borg.
Which means
technical term.
T'Landra probably the scene probably starts with T'Landra doing just the tiniest micro expression of alarm.
Fucking phasers don't
work. These are not micro expressions.
Have the Borg moved, or have they just kind of come online?
No drones that you can tell have yet left their alcoves.
The shit is that?
Someone's hoovering. Okay. T'Landra then will take a breath. If our assumptions are correct, they are not able to assimilate at this point in time, which means we have only one option. We must locate the captain. We must reach the Meraxes.
Yes, Commander.
Which means forward.
Aye, Commander. I'm down for that, even if right now this phaser rifle is going to be more used for beating the drone to death than shooting them.
Do not deny its value if necessary, Lieutenant.
Oh. I'll take anything I can get right now.
Everybody stay close. Keep your eyes open. Do not touch anything that is not necessary to. Remember, even though we do not think these drones can assimilate us, every drone, every eye, every ear on this ship is listening and processing any information we say. So keep information at a strictly necessary to be shared between each other.
Yes.
Aye, Commander.
Understood, Commander.
T'Landra will sheath her phaser, will pull out her tricorder, and will begin looking for the captain. Stepping forward into the space.
Captain Athan. Hello, Captain Athan.
Who are you?
You may remove your EV suit. I'm sure its power cell could do with saving its charge, and you'll find that the atmosphere in here, both in terms of composition and temperature, is rather akin to a pleasant spring day on Trill.
I'm getting at my fucking tricorder, and I'm checking this.
The readings seem confirmed, incidentally. There really is a glass and a carafe of water on the table. This being in front of you is a hologram.
Okay. I will lift the helmet.
I'm sure that's much more comfortable. Please feel free to take a seat.
To the glass of water. and a table, and I'm not sitting down.
Well, make yourself comfortable however you wish. If you prefer standing, I of course don't object at all.
Who are you?
We are the Borg. This holographic manifestation you are talking to is an emissary of the Borg, Captain Athan.
This is define emissary. Is this just the means in which you're choosing to communicate with me, or is this something you've done before?
This is both an old and a new practice for the Borg, Captain, long since forgotten and newly remembered.
Very well. Why have you separated me from my crew?
Because you are in command of both the crew and the ship. Therefore, you have the executive authority.
What do you want with me?
To talk, Captain.
That's not particularly what the Borg are famous for.
That's fair. That's fair.
Nor is humour.
We have assimilated thousands of worlds worth of humour, Captain.
You have also assimilated comprehensions of freedom and ethics, and yet you never adopted those.
I believe it is the nature of ethical systems to differ, Captain.
Potentially, yes.
Indeed, we've assimilated Vulcan logic, Klingon honor, human compassion, Ferengi ruthlessness, Romulan cunning. They're all in here with us.
And yet, all I see is the same thing, and no individuality. What do you want with me?
There is a lot of mistrust between us, Captain, and it's understandable. The collective's behavior in the past has not been conducive to good diplomacy or good relations.
I'm not even sure that you had any concept of utilizing diplomacy, but go on.
We have assimilated many diplomats, Captain.
Then I will be curious to see then what you are going to show for that.
We have come to try for peace, Captain.
Are there so few of you left that that is your only choice?
There is only one of us, Captain. There has always been only one of us.
What's changed then? The last contact we had with the Borg, a vast network stretching across the Delta Quadrant. Some losses certainly taken, but it was impossible for us to ascertain the full extent.
Several trillion drones, several 100,000 vessels, and 423 planets had to be terminated as part of our most recent adaptation, Captain.
Adaptation?
You're right. There is only one of us, but you do not operate in that way. Forgive me, Captain. And T'Landra materializes next to you. Perhaps you would feel more comfortable having an ally in these negotiations.
Captain.
Commander, I'm getting out my tricorder and I'm checking if this is T'Landra.
It is certainly Lieutenant Commander T'Landra.
T'Landra will do likewise.
Yep, you read everything as I've described it. There is a holographic
Wait, yes.
entity of some sort.
Curious.
Commander T'Landra. A second glass materializes on the table.
Commander, it would appear... How are the others?
Well, when I left them, Captain.
They're probably less well right now, but... It would appear that this is a Borg emissary which wishes to conduct diplomacy with us.
Fascinating.
Quite. What...
It did always seem illogical that for all of its assimilation, the Borg never seemed to develop a sense of adapting its tactics to the tactics of others.
If the Borg had mostly been successful, barring the last 10 years or so.
Which means...
A slow adaptation.
A slow adaptation to a true change in the balance of power?
So you're inferring, emissary? What should I call you? Borg?
You may address me as emissary if you wish. Titles have meaning in diplomatic contexts. I can answer any questions you might have about the recent history of the collective. There is no need for you to speculate. We have undergone a great deal of change, or perhaps I should say adaptation, since it is a combination of the new and the old.
Since when? This particular change?
Since your Federation starship Voyager uploaded a neurolytic pathogen into the collective. It was perhaps the greatest boon any have ever done us.
Please elaborate.
Let us simplify and say that it afforded us the opportunity to remove certain algorithms that had proven a hindrance to our adaptation over the centuries. The Borg has failed in the past to assimilate the Alpha Quadrant civilizations as it has done the Delta Quadrant civilizations. This is because we were poorly adapted to the scale of Alpha Quadrant empires, including the Federation. We are better adapted now. We understand, as we always should have done, that the Alpha Quadrant thrives primarily on diplomacy.
So your adaptation remains to serve the cause of assimilation?
Indeed, assimilation is the only means to acquire the perfection that drives us.
But now you seek to persuade the Alpha Quadrant to be assimilated willingly?
As the Federation does, yes.
Haha. Oh, I'm not going down that road of philosophy.
Captain Athan, in 2 hours your ship will be destroyed by a rather unfortunately timed astronomical phenomenon. In 2 hours, I'm sure that we can accomplish a great deal towards peace.
So is that it? Cut to the chase. What do you want?
Ultimately, we wish for the Federation to join us. But, as I'm sure you can imagine, one single sphere is not likely to accomplish that, nor are we likely to accomplish it without the consent of the leaders of your Federation, which in the end we will seek.
And you're starting with me.
A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, is the saying, I believe.
Yes, well, you assimilated that saying. Right, then here and now, what are you seeking to achieve? Right here, in this room.
In this instance, I believe we have a proposal that will serve both of our interests. We simply wish for the Iskandar to reclaim its crew and depart.
Then, if you're entering into a new stage of diplomacy, then why have you attacked a Tal Shiar ship, seized their crew, and the vessel itself? I will give this for free. That is something of a gaffe of diplomacy with the Romulans.
I do not believe that you have been fully apprised of the sequence of events in this particular instance, Captain.
Please
However, since I'm aware that the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire have recently entered a period of extended peace, I will not wish to place a wedge between two allies, only to say that there is a difference in the sequence of events than the one that you have supposed.
And please, if I've been lied to by my allies, as a show of good faith, enlighten me.
This sphere did not instigate the encounter which has ended in this present result.
I'm going to need more than that.
This sphere is simply a forward scouting vessel. It did not detect the Romulan vessel and was fired upon. Naturally, being a lone vessel quite distant from the Unimatrix, we responded in kind, hoping to deter the much smaller Romulan vessel. Unfortunately, a deterrent was taken as provocation, and a further battle ensued.
Given the Borg's previous history of impossible negotiations, you can understand their position.
We understand their position perfectly. There is a great deal of distrust for the Borg in this part of the galaxy, and we understand it.
And then, when we found that Romulan ship, you were nowhere in sight. And then you arrived, and then you abducted the crew and the ship. Surely
Indeed.
that's a continuing escalation of hostilities.
No, merely a prevention.
Of what?
We have successfully prevented the Tal Shiar ship from reporting back to their superiors that there are Borg in the area. However, as a gesture towards peace, you will note we have assimilated no Romulans.
Mm-hmm.
We will be more than happy to allow you to take them back to the Iskandar immediately.
So, what you are offering is that I can take my crew, the Romulans, return to my ship, you will release the ship, and then we, simply bring word of your interest in diplomacy back to the Federation?
I am certain you will think of the correct thing to do, Captain Athan.
Mm-hmm.
Your service record is quite excellent.
Thank you. And if I were to do this, how exactly would I be suggesting to my superiors that we establish ongoing communication with the collective?
We could easily give you the coordinates of a nearby transwarp node.
And what about the Maraxes?
A derelict Romulan vessel without a power core.
Property of the Romulan Star Empire.
Sadly, since the Romulan Star Empire considers itself to exist in a state of war with the Borg Collective, we may have to call that rightful conquest.
That's not exactly getting off on the right foot for ongoing negotiations in the Alpha Quadrant.
No,
Surely it would in fact have more of a statement if everything and their property were released.
Even the Romulans value the lives of their citizens, Captain. I'm sure that the release of several high-ranking Tal Shiar officials will be more than enough to demonstrate the goodwill of the Romulan people.
Then what's your interest in the ship? You have ships, you have equipment, you have technology, or is this just simply to demonstrate that you have a velvet glove over a steel fist?
What an excellent turn of phrase. We will remember that.
I'm glad I could contribute.
Nothing of the sort. We, like you, are a sort of explorer. We seek to understand things. We have not yet failed to detect a cloaked Romulan vessel. This is the first we've failed to detect. We would like to know why. You can imagine if the Romulans realize they have a cloaking device that we cannot detect, they may have less noble ambitions for it.
You understand, however, that by making this act at this moment in time, now, you are making peace with both the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire quite impossible. This will be seen as an open act of hostility before your diplomatic overtures have even begun.
11,492. That is the number of Federation civilians and Starfleet officers killed or assimilated by the Borg Collective. Compared to the 237 million destroyed by the Dominion, it's a rather paltry figure, and yet you made peace with the Dominion.
I think your first mistake here is trying to boil lives down to numbers.
On the contrary, we would boil all lives down to a single number.
It took a long period of time for peace to be reached with the Dominion, not 2 hours with a sphere that has given us very little to go on.
Commander T'Landra, the Borg is nothing if not patient. If you say peace will take decades or even centuries, we assure you we are willing to work for it.
I suppose, while we can talk around this, what exactly are our alternatives? You have us in a room. Are there any doors in this room, Raph?
No.
No, figured not. You have us in a room. We won't die of dehydration within the next day or so. But aside from that, if we refuse to leave, what? If we refuse to carry your message, if we don't do this, what happens?
Overtures will be made to the Federation government in time. Whether or not you conduct our message is entirely your decision. The only thing we ask of you, Captain, is to return to your ship with your Romulan allies and return to the Alpha Quadrant in peace. We have not damaged your vessel, Captain.
I suspect some of my officers are going to take a fairly different opinion on that stance. But, and then if not, what, you kill us? Here? Assimilate us?
In 2 hours' time, we will not need to, Captain.
The comet. And then what about us on the ship? On this ship, on this sphere? What happens to us?
At this present moment, you are our guests. But, Captain, you know as well as I do the difference between a guest and an intruder.
And a prisoner.
The Borg does not keep prisoners, Captain. There are guests and there are infestations, and you know what a body does to an infestation, Captain.
Quite.
Your crew is making their way towards you now. I fear they'll have a difficult time finding you, but they're very determined, and Lieutenant Cantos is making a valiant attempt to regain control of your ship. It may well be that that attempt is successful, but it will not avail you anything. Damaged even as it is, this sphere is far beyond the capacity of an Intrepid-class starship.
That's quite true. However, one would have hoped that you would have realized by now that interactions between Federation starships and the Borg, your losses haven't really come due to superior firepower.
No, indeed. As proven by these very events, the Federation favors infiltration and sabotage to direct conflict. It is a tactic to which we have adapted.
So it seems.
How gracious of you to admit.
Perhaps then, as you have given us 2 hours, as you say, before our hands are quite forced, you have made your overtures. If you would give us time to discuss it, we will get back to you.
Do we have any offers of privacy? I would recommend such for diplomatic undertakings.
There is a sensory algorithm built into this holographic matrix. If the hologram is dismissed, then you will have privacy. There are no drones within quite some distance of this space.
And then, if we want to speak with you again, what do we do?
Do nothing. I will return in plenty of time for you to make your decision and save your ship.
Very well.
Our thanks.
Of course. When I return, perhaps you might desire more than simply water to refresh yourselves. We recently assimilated a world with advanced particle synthesis and should be able to produce any manner of food you might require.
Quite comfortable, thank you.
Very well. The hologram fades.
Well.
Quite my words, Captain.
The most damning thing is I don't think this is deception, although, frankly, if they've hit the capacity for diplomacy, I suppose anything's possible.
Who can say what deceit it has assimilated?
That is also true.
But it has taken them this long to develop even rudimentary diplomacy, complex deceit on the level that we can expect from the Romulans or the Dominion. I think, rationally speaking, should be years out of their reach.
That is a very good extrapolation, number one. Wait, Athan doesn't call T'Landra number one, it's XO. I'm sorry, I've been watching far too much Discovery.
Let me just sip my tea. It seems then, Captain, that we are in something of a quandary.
What do you think is the likelihood that the other three are going to try to complete the mission without us?
Their last instructions before I left were to locate the captain, locate the ship. If, as the emissary states, we are impossible to find, it may be that, given the limited time, Lieutenant Vance decides to take action and lead them to the ship instead. I think he will take a more logical approach to the mission and deem that it is more important that the Borg do not get their hands on the technology than what is effectively two ranking Starfleet officers.
Yes, I hope that will be his conclusion as well, because frankly, at present, my plan is to stall and try to buy the others time. We have this 2-hour period for them to try to complete this mission. I am not interested. I mean, maybe we have no choice.
And yet, it is certainly interesting, Captain, that an enemy of the Federation that we have, in what little training we have received, been trained to treat as a force of nature or unstoppable, immovable object, must now be treated on par with the Founders or the Vorta. Hostile, but rational.
Mutable.
This elevates them somewhat and makes our negotiations more difficult.
Yes, it does.
Still the Federation, after all.
I agree. However, at their core, their goals remain as they've stated.
I do not doubt it.
I cannot trust them. I cannot conceive that they will not revert once they have the opportunity to their old ways.
Nor should we. But it seems, philosophically speaking, that once an enemy becomes capable of rational discourse, we must then treat them on that level.
Then what do you suggest?
That we trust in Lieutenant Vance and potentially prepare to face the consequences of failed negotiation.
The biggest problem is if we run out of time, then we have to take this offer.
Unfortunately, it is not simply a question of keeping a captain or chief diplomat or politician distracted. It is simply one neuron in one wider net.
And I suppose it depends on how closely they are monitoring the rest of the team. If the rest of the team seems as if it is close to achieving its goal, I imagine the timetable is going to shift.
Given what we can understand about how the Borg assimilates information, it may well be that they do not know fully what it is to expect from the Meraxes, and if so, maybe monitoring the crew to see what they attempt to do before stopping them. That may give the away team an edge. Not a good one, but better than them being stopped in the chamber before.
Yes. I suppose they have to have some reason why they've not just whisked all of us into here, which is probably that they want to learn something. Or they don't think they're a threat.
My working theory is that they are being observed. Which means I believe perhaps the only tool that they have available to them is the unpredictability of humanity. And although that is quite a frightening thought, it is also a tool that has served the Federation well for generations.
It's sometimes galling not being a human in Starfleet.
Considering that it is Vulcan logic that must temper the unpredictability of humans, I find their position enviable.
Well, I suppose if we have more time to converse with the emissary, at the least we should be attempting to learn as much as we can, on the hope that at the least if we come away from this, we are furnished with as much information as possible.
Of course. And in the meantime, I remember once it was your intention to learn as much as possible about what it is to be a captain for when you take the Admiralty.
Yes.
This, then, is a vital lesson in trusting in the instincts of one's crew.
I'm still not thrilled that some of my crew's greatest challenges continue to come with me separated.
It is when captain, perhaps they will best rise to the occasion.
I hope you're right.
Lieutenant Cantos. Rising to the occasion. You have sent a couple of teams around the Iskandar to investigate the extent of the computer glitches.
Mm-hmm.
And you receive a hail. Tarek to bridge.
Go ahead, Tarek. What we got?
I think good news.
I do like good news.
This Borg virus, we've been calling it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a virus, or at least I don't think it is anymore. I think it's what you'd call fire and forget.
Okay. Good.
It's not actively doing anything. It's created a new clearance level that not even the captain can reach, and it's locked those systems to that level.
Right. Okay.
Which means I don't think it's in our computer anymore.
It's done its job, and so we just need to crack that. Okay, good. It means we're not having to adapt to something that's changing with us.
It does mean, without any existing Borg software in our system, there's nothing for us to reverse engineer.
Nothing for us to reverse engineer, but chances are it's based on our own security systems. And as you say, has just created another level of clearance that nobody in Starfleet can touch.
I'll see if I can find a workaround.
Sounds to me like you might need to work out how to break into our own systems.
See what I can do. Tarek out.
Good luck.
You have on the display on your command chair, you have a countdown to the arrival of the strange matter comet, which will be here in 1 hour and 32 minutes.
Are there any systems at all that I can get to that are useful, that are not locked out? I'm thinking especially in any propulsion systems at all, or things that could be used propulsion systems.
You have communications, sensors, and life supports.
Okay, good.
You do actually have control of the warp drive, but not the navigational systems.
Okay.
So if it comes necessary, you could just...
In case of emergency, warp one backwards.
Yeah?
Just indefinitely.
No, short control burn.
Quick question.
Backwards.
Is Cantos having this conversation on the bridge with Tarek, like through the bridge business?
From the impression I got from that was that that was Tarek calling up to the bridge.
Yeah.
So it was over.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean on the bridge. I meant like via the bridge.
Yeah. Cantos is on the bridge for this.
And oh Jesus, Praetor Sinistro, Commander
Major Vlaneth.
Major Vlaneth. Off to a roaring start. Major, I don't want this to seem rude, but I have a notion that you can feel free to say won't work, and I won't push it further. I'm not trying to insinuate anything.
Please go on, Doctor.
You are Tal Shiar. And there are a lot of potentially paranoid rumors about the Tal Shiar that are spread through Starfleet since the Dominion War, even through peacetime, that you are able to have perhaps to infiltrate even the highest ranked of Starfleet systems. If now is the time that you are able to hack our Starfleet vessel, then maybe when we are facing certain annihilation from Comet, now might be the time to mention it. We promise not to tell.
I'm somewhat relieved, Doctor. I thought for a moment you were going to accuse me of something.
No. Just if anyone could use potentially shonky workarounds, it would be you. I would be less surprised.
Well, Lieutenant Cantos is in command of the ship, and therefore, for the time being, in command of me. Should your own efforts fail, I'll happily lend my services, though I should point out that my special area is not computer infiltration.
I guarantee you're probably a better computer infiltratist than I am.
Well, then let's hope that Mr. Tarek is equal to either of us.
Quite.
Let's hope so. But certainly bear that in mind in case we do find ourselves in need of alternative specialist services.
Understood.
There is a special triumvirate of desperate times, desperate measures, and desperate Tal Shiar.
Does anyone except for the captain actually know that he's Tal Shiar?
Oh, I just assumed we knew. I'll just say Romulan then and make Arcady more racist. It's fine.
I mean, now T'Landra knows because I said it in front of her. But
no, this is the thing.
Yeah, I don't.
I thought Major was a Tal Shiar rank.
Yes, that's true. It is.
In the first episode, T'Landra said Tal Shiar, but Sable thought that I just done a slip of the tongue, whereas T'Landra was just making a clever inference designed to wrong foot the Romulans, but because he thought I was just making a mistake, he ignored me.
I mean, it's not going to shock anyone. Lieutenant Vance said, that this is almost certainly a Tal Shiar ship, so it's not really a huge shock. Well, that's fine. Major Vlaneth hasn't denied being Tal Shiar.
Yeah, in that case, if Lieutenant Vance said that at any point whilst on the bridge, the whole mess, then yeah, most of the folk on the bridge are going to have heard that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You probably do all know that he's Tal Shiar.
And if not, then Arcady was just being a bit rude, but fundamentally going, hey, you're Romulan a bit sinister. Can you hack our ship?
This seems like the kind of stuff you lot do all the time, right?
I consider that to be enormously racist. Of course I can hack your ship. Hold on. What have I been doing this whole time?
Damn it, it wasn't the Borg at all.
He's got one of those little Tony Stark buttons. He just claps onto the side of your chair and it's all done.
Fuck.
That guy's playing Gattaca. Gattaca thought we wouldn't know. We do. Okay. He's good. He's good. Good old Vlad.
That's Major Vlad, played by Robert Downey Jr. in my head now.
It's not a bad casting. We couldn't afford him, but it's not a bad casting.
No, it's true. I only charge half what he would charge, though, so it's a bargain.
We still can't afford.
I was about to make a joke, but it would have been a spoiler.
So, away team. You've a few minutes ago, you were deprived of Commander T'Landra.
Fuck. I need to have just a brief moment to try to get myself fully into just how fucked Vance is.
Let's give
Texas.
everyone
Come on,
5
Texas.
seconds to do a face journey of that realization, just to help Kath.
Ah, fuck. All right. Last I heard, we didn't have a location on them. We just know that they're somewhere between us and the Maraxus.
Somewhere ahead.
Yeah, all we've got is somewhere ahead. We haven't actually got anything specific yet.
Borg don't play. We gotta keep going. We gotta head for the Maraxus, and you gotta watch them tricorders and see if you can get any lead on where they are.
And if we get to the Maraxus before we find the captain and the commander,
then we do the mission, Ensign.
yes, sir.
And hey, if we can grab them and hightail it out of here, I'm all in favor of that.
Of course.
Yes, sir.
But right now, they appear they can pluck any of us whenever they want. For some reason, they haven't taken us all out. So, like the commander said, maintain minimal jibber jabber about. I'm not going to say that. That's too far. That's a southernism too far. Keep conversation down to pertinent information. They can hear anything we're saying, anything, probably see everything we're doing. So let's press on and keep your explosives close to hand, gentlemen. Shit.
Let's see. What?
What's she doing?
Oh, that's out of character. I wasn't sure what was.
No,
I'm so sorry. There was a moth
In your realm.
in my realm.
Oh. I didn't know if you were trying to contribute something or if something had happened that was
I
very
thought it was in
drastic.
character somehow.
I had no
Andrew is trying to communicate with semaphore.
They can't see us.
Really
but-
bad semaphore. Sorry, it was a moth. I'm so
No.
sorry.
Please paint us a word picture of the horror that's going to unfold as we move forwards.
Yeah, as we advance through the worst of all times.
You advance. Yes, you advance into the darkest timeline. As you begin your walk across the very long gantry in this open bay, your suits confirm what your tricorders had, that the air pressure outside of your suits is next to zero. You are followed by red light, a cone of red light from drones looking down towards you but not stepping out of their alcove.
That's the worst.
Oh no, it's not quite the worst yet.
No,
Have faith. Have some faith. The worst, about halfway through your journey, you hear a metallic thud. You can probably feel it, really, on account of not being able to hear anything, on account of space. That's never stopped anyone before, but let's pretend that sound doesn't actually travel in a vacuum. And you turn around, and there is a drone walking towards you.
All right. Is it in between? It's behind us. It's coming up.
It's behind you, yeah.
Let's pick up the pace a little. See what it does. Never heard of a drone running before, so let's try to not be the first.
Cayce will pick up the pace.
I want to run away from the Borg.
How much pace do you pick up?
Are we moving to swift walk, or are we just
jog? Let's move to jog.
Yeah.
Let's move to an energy sustainable jog, and I hope the sad boys have done cardio.
I'm all about cardio.
After a couple of seconds of jogging, the rhythmic thud of the drone approaching you matches your pace.
Oh no!
To run!
No!
I will take assimilation, please.
And in the TV episode, because of course sound does travel in a vacuum in TV land, you can hear its servos going as it clunks its way along the. And of course, it's not breaking a sweat. It has no facial expression. It's just coming for you. This is great.
All right, now we run. Now we just run. We're running.
No, it's gonna run. We're making it worse for ourselves. Let's just lie down and wait to die.
Now, you're just trying to find out the limit of its athletic prowess, aren't you?
We might be able to lose it before it decides to figure out how to adapt and run.
It's a
That's.
gantry. It goes forwards.
I mean-
Okay, there's no particular way. Is there any? How long is this gantry? How far is this our future?
Depends how fast we run.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably only going to be, if you're going at full pelt, it's only going to be about another 20 seconds or so before you.
Yeah, I'm in favor of running off this gantry, and then maybe we can ditch the drone. If nothing else, I don't want to deal with a drone on a gantry. And also, I'm going to have to fight the drone. Let's be real.
The drone is coming at you full tilt
Oh no!
and comes to a stop about 10 meters away from you.
How near are we to the exit?
You're right at the exit.
And I think it's probably going to be time to stop, spin a little bit dramatically, look at it, and then look the way we're coming. Look the way we're heading.
There is a closed door in front of you.
Lieutenant Strange, please get that door open. Vance is going to
Lieutenant.
heft and adjust his grip on his rifle.
Step. Step.
Vance
Step.
is going to step forward.
Little phaser pistol.
That doesn't work.
Oh, no.
Remember, Mike.
Oh no.
I doubt Sammy has remembered that in
That's
this
true.
stressful.
That's true. Cayce maybe doesn't remember. That's not going to do you any good, Ensign.
Oh, of course. He lowers in.
Vance is going to unsling his pack of the explosives and pass it to Cayce.
He takes it.
And he's just going to plant himself between them and the drone.
The door ahead of you opens.
How many drones are on the other side?
It's the same configuration of room as you've just come through, but none of their eye beams are on.
All right, go. And if you can shut that door behind us.
And Strange will try and get that door shut and locked as best he can.
Okay, but the drone. You do not have time for that.
Okay.
Oh.
All right. Vance will take up the rear if he can, and if
You are
that
not
drone
in
is...
control of this door.
Oh, is that drone still coming?
Yeah.
So we've got through the door.
Step.
The drone is coming. What are our options physically moving forward? Like,
Okay, you have come into a room, as I said, very similar to
Yep.
the one you just left, with one notable difference: it is furnished with a very broken Romulan ship.
Uh-huh. Is it perchance the Miraxis?
You'd hope so.
Shit, it's the Buraxis.
all right.
Shit, they got the whole series.
So
You are picking up both the captain's and T'Landra's comm signals some way to your right as you come into the chamber. The Miraxis is some way down and directly ahead of you.
and the drone is still coming.
The drone is maintaining a distance of 5 meters from you.
Okay. So what's our way onto the ship, Lieutenant?
I'd imagine the easiest thing is just going to be to go straight towards to get onto the ship, and then find an opening, a doorway, the nearest one we can to get onto it. Find our way from there.
This is the clearest
Ideally,
direction
one towards the back, towards the engines. Mike, are you muted?
Oh,
no, I think he was just making. No, he wasn't. He was just making.
Oh, were you just mouthing?
No, I wasn't. I was trying to talk.
Oh, right.
This is the clearest we've ever had of their signals. We actually have a direction for the captain.
That is the other thing.
We can't just all get captured one by one.
But they can capture us anytime they want.
Yeah, and they haven't. And if that's the case in the logic you're going to use, Ensign, then trying to break someone free ain't going to do us no good neither.
Yes, Commander. Lieutenant. He doesn't get it wrong.
Can I get a distance on how far away
That's very
the
useful.
comm signals are?
100 meters.
And how far away is the Meraxis?
To get to the Meraxis, you will have to cross the room, which is 300 meters, and then go across the parallel gantry. And there's actually an extended walkway that leads onto the Meraxis.
Right. Okay. So probably talking about 400 to 500 meters of actual movement to get to the Meraxis.
Yes.
The captain and the commander are closer than the Meraxis is.
No. Their comm signals are.
Yeah, and I don't like any of
this. We've got for the captain and the commander are closer than the Meraxis.
And then they're real close on our return journey.
We don't know the state they're in. We need to work with the...
We're heading for the Meraxis.
Yes, Lieutenant.
Captain Athan, Commander T'Landra.
As I leave myself to die.
The emissary reappears.
Hooray!
Captain, Commander.
Emissary?
Emissary.
Have you had sufficient time to discuss your options?
I mean, arguably, when you're effectively holding our lives over our heads, freedom choice is something of an illusion.
There is no other situation, no other circumstance in which these negotiations could possibly occur.
That is true.
I think it would interest us to know a little more about your intended timeline going forward from this point.
Yes, it would only be fair to discuss what we forecast to be the future of the Borg Collective in the Alpha Quadrant. Perhaps this discussion might be more easily held if we did not hold the lives of your crew in the balance.
What are you suggesting?
Again, in the interest of trying to establish good faith, we can guide your away team to an unshielded part of the ship and signal the Iskandar to take them off along with the Romulans, and then the only two lives that will be in any jeopardy at all, if at all, will be yours and the commander's. I know how much a Starfleet captain values the lives of their crew. It's quite heartwarming.
It's not exactly going to be easy to convince the crew to go against protocol and abandon Captain and an XO and just get out of here.
The nature of your hierarchy is one of obedience. I'm sure that they will trust that your directives are well meant.
And then how are we supposed to bring a message back if the Iskandar leaves with all lives aboard?
The Iskandar does not have to leave. This is a gesture of good faith, not an ultimatum, Captain.
The gesture is well received. However, perhaps since we are interested first in gathering more information, it would do us better to simply talk, rather than trying to maneuver our crew about.
If we are going to ever try to I am still a Starfleet officer, and it is still my primary directive to seek out new forms of life. You are at present, in your changed state, effectively a new form of life. If I am to undergo ongoing diplomatic opportunities with you, before I can make decisions which affect, when we still have the time, because we do have the time, before I make decisions which will affect the lives of my crew, at the very least knowing what you want from this, what you want from the Alpha Quadrant, where you see all of this going, that is something we have the liberty to discuss, explore.
Very well. Then might I suggest a compromise? Your away team is presently in no direct danger. However, they are beginning to proceed into areas of the sphere where their safety cannot be guaranteed. Perhaps rather than trying to dissuade them from their task, you simply ask them to hold their present position until our discussions are concluded.
Unfortunately, they are very likely to see this as I have been taken hostage. I can't easily conceive of a way to convince them that these are orders being given in good faith.
You understand our predicament.
The nature of Starfleet is a hierarchy. They do not have to comprehend the purpose behind your orders. Their training and protocol dictates that they must obey your orders, regardless of the context. Unless the hierarchical nature of Starfleet has changed.
I think perhaps you may simplify the nature of the hierarchical relations of Starfleet.
My rank and the authority it gives me are reliant upon my conduct and the upholding of the principles of the Federation and of Starfleet. I am merely their representative in this uniform. If I am behaving in a way which violates those principles, and at present they see you as a great threat to the galaxy, and I don't think dragging them into this conversation will take far too much time, they will only see this as I am being exploited or threatened, and am not truly acting in my form as their superior officer.
Also, Emissary, you must understand that although it is gladdening that you have reached out to us in an attempt to pursue a diplomatic route, this is not symptomatic of our relationship with your people so far, with you so far. They know, as we do, that should you desire to end the captain or I, you can do so immediately and without any hope of reversal. It is quite sensible for the crew to consider that since we are lost, we are dead already, and therefore will have moved on to separate protocols.
Far be it for me to allow us to come to an impasse so early in our discussions. Perhaps then, in the spirit of frankness, I should say that your away team will cease their progress immediately. They will do that either by your order or by ours. We may not be as persuasive, but then again, they are on our ship. We do not need to persuade them of anything at all.
You've plucked us out of thin air on your ship. You've got transporter control all over. What are they? Are their lives not worth the energy? Should it come to that?
What an excellent point, Captain. We will determine the value of their lives. And while we are making that calculation, perhaps we can answer some questions of yours.
I believe we already asked our question, Emissary.
Well, maybe pretend the GM doesn't remember and ask.
Don't you have 1,000,000,000,000 drone prions to work on? You shit.
So many!
What's milk? Oh. The big questions.
A suspension of lipids in water, often produced by mammalian species.
Drone dunk.
That's the mic drop for today.
I don't know why. That's
it's been one of many mic drops. There's been a couple of them, but I thought milk was something that you got out of plasma conduits.
Oh no! Callbacks.
Anyway, I believe we had asked for your timeline, your ideal timeline going forward, so that we may best understand what motivates these discussions.
Any prediction of the future would only come off as insincere if those predictions prove false. So perhaps I could offer an example by way of a demonstration of our past recent behavior.
If that would be helpful to you.
The most recent civilization to join us was species 8511. We detected them in the Delta Quadrant after their activation of a new technology with a remarkable energy signature, one consistent with a potent means of power generation. Upon investigation, however, it became clear that this energy signature in fact belonged to a devastating weapon that they had developed. There were 11 billion of them, subdivided into 23 large nation states, all competing for the planet's remaining resources. A single detonation of this weapon would have annihilated at least half of them by our calculation. And so we offered them an alternative. We gathered their leaders, much as we have gathered you now, and we offered them unity. Not unity with us, unity with each other. We shared with them neural transceiver technology and explained its use. Not all of them agreed, but a few did. They joined their minds and became one. They reached concord, and before long, all of species 8511 was a single mind. War, annihilation of their millions of years old culture, was no longer possible. It was at that point that they approached us and asked for assimilation into the collective. After due consideration, we accepted. And they joined us. All of their history, their art, their technology and biology have become one with us. Even now, across the collective, our drones can hear their music and tell their stories, entirely by the consent of species 8511.
I noticed a certain amount of skimming over the before long, all of them agreed to the neural transmitters. So what cost did that have for those who didn't want to join?
We did not monitor their world or direct its destiny, Captain. They were a rich and vast culture on the brink of annihilation and collapse. We offered them a potential solution. It could have easily not worked, Captain. They could have rejected our offer, or those that accepted our offer could have been overwhelmed by those who preferred their freedom to their existence.
And if they had
wisely.
And if they had refused your offer, emissary, what then?
One imagines that this very moment there would be no species 8511. Their culture would be gone, their biological and technological distinctiveness eradicated forever from the universe.
So
a tragic, but happily an avoidable one.
So a polite refusal is enough to rebuff the diplomatic advances of the Borg.
What has been the benefit of the past 2 centuries of assimilating species who do not wish to be assimilated, species who have not yet reached the culmination of their technological advancement. It does not add to our perfection to assimilate prematurely. Species 8511 was on the brink of never existing again. They were at the optimal point for integration into the collective. Had we left it any later, the opportunity would have forever passed us by.
I noticed that wasn't actually answering the question.
I do apologize.
Would you have politely carried on your way? If they'd said no.
No. Species 8511 was on the brink of annihilation. The Federation is not on the brink of annihilation. If the Federation says no, the Federation's decision can be trusted.
And then who gets to define what the brink is? We're all dying. Every species is stagnating. Every culture is changing. The Federation of 100 years ago is gone. Indeed. The Federation of 5 minutes ago is gone. Who defines the brink? You? You define when it is time for us to be saved?
It is my understanding that the Federation Council makes a similar determination for every new applicant. Did you not establish a presence over the planet of Bajor for exactly this purpose, readying them for assimilation and finally accepting your application when their cultural adaptation was sufficient to your requirements?
When Bajor chose to
As
join,
Species 8511 chose, Captain.
The individuals persist. The individuals can continue. Bajor, if it wishes to, may someday leave the Federation. Bajor will continue to develop with its own culture, in its own way. Yes, with communication, with networking, with as much of it as it wishes or does not wish with the rest of the Federation. But Bajor endures.
Indeed. And yet how many cultures have been eradicated forever by your greatest allies, the Klingon Empire?
And at present, our treaties with the Klingon Empire rather do involve us not turning a blind eye when they embark upon.
Whereas the Borg have annihilated no civilizations. We have preserved forever thousands. They're with us now. Their songs, their stories, their technological advancements.
And species can endure in a museum, but they do not still live.
Forgive me, Captain, they are very much alive.
They are forever part of something. They can never maintain their own unique distinctiveness. It just all goes into a collective without individuality, without individual spark or innovation. The Federation is a collective of individuals, Borg. That is our strength. That is why you've struggled for so long against us. Because it is more people, cultures, communities are more complicated than just the sum of their parts. That is something which, when everyone is pushed in together, it loses that vital essence. That is, surely you have those memories of those experiences.
Yes.
And yet they mean nothing. And yet so many species have resisted you, have hated with every fiber of their being the concept of becoming Borg.
Yes, indeed.
And you believe that they were all just ignorant? That they didn't understand what it meant?
By definition, since they had never been Borg before that point.
So they were just wrong. They shouldn't have been afraid. They shouldn't have hated the idea of losing their individuality.
No.
Is that your conclusion?
They should not have been afraid.
But the problem
Fear is not a virtue. Unless you wish to convince your Vulcan comrade here that fear is a virtue, which I do not believe you do, Captain. You can't possibly hold to that ideal. And since you've never been assimilated by the Borg, your experience is limited in this regard.
I can say a great many things on fear, but please, Exo.
And yet it is more like saying that once you die, you are no longer afraid of death. But you cannot go back to your living self and tell you not to be afraid. It's simply not the nature of death or assimilation. The universe abhors entropy and stagnation.
Yes.
And that is what the Borg is. To trap a culture behind glass is not to allow a living culture.
I understand that you have a great amount of fear where the Borg are concerned, and I'm not suggesting that a great amount of change doesn't warrant a rational amount of trepidation.
I could wax lyrical on some of the strengths and virtues of fear, but I believe that's not necessarily the point.
Do not all of your cultures have dark histories of conquest?
Yes.
So do we, Captain. So do we.
And yet, because of those dark histories of conquest, there is a reason the Prime Directive exists. Because for all that we know, all that we have seen, all of the massed knowledge and wisdom of all of the peoples of the Federation, we do not presume that we always know best for people who are not like us and whom we cannot inherently understand. We cannot presume that our way is always the best way forward for other people. And sometimes it has a damning cost, but also it means that we do not uproot these cultures, destroy their distinctiveness, and make them think like us because we think we know best. There have been, for all of the atrocities across so many species across history, some have been no more damning than when someone walks into someone else's land and says, I know what is best here. And that species may not die at once, but it will die a slow death of oppression to becoming converted into those who came there, usually at gunpoint.
Tell me, Captain, who's your chief science officer?
Why?
It doesn't matter who your chief science officer is. The point is it's not you, is it?
No.
And nor does your chief science officer command your ship. Why is that?
Because of training and experience.
Ah, of course. You're of course exactly correct. The Federation is entirely ill-equipped and incapable of deciding the destinies of worlds. The Federation is not a single mind comprised as a galactic-scale supercomputer of trillions of processors acting in perfect harmony, whereas the Borg, of course, is. Our calculations may be relied upon, just as your command decisions may be relied upon for reasons that your science officer does not possess. We respect that difference.
The problem is that you seem to think that knowing best is simply a matter of calculation.
Indeed.
Sometimes wisdom is a little bit more complicated than that.
We have assimilated a great deal of wisdom, Captain.
You are a walking library.
As are you. Especially as a joined trill. Have you not assimilated the memory of a previous lifetime? Do those memories not inform you? Do they not make you distinctive?
Yes,
you are
do.
thinking of the Borg as a plurality of beings, Captain. A plurality of beings is not what we are. We are one being, made up of parts like a trill, with the memories of previous generations forever, what was it, Commander? Trapped behind glass. A marvelous phrase. I will remember that.
It is yours to use. However, you seem to misunderstand. I am under no illusion that the captain that I am speaking to, T'Landra knows who Athan's first.
Yeah, let me find it.
And I've forgotten it.
I was like, I know that name. It's obviously here. It's really important.
Also, while Kath is looking that up, I have a very serious question that I want to know the answer to, but I was hoping we'd take a break and I could ask your question about it. But it's not happening, and I need to form T'Landra opinions.
Well, we'll take a break in a minute.
Well, no, it's fine. That wasn't a pointed comment. When one becomes assimilated, the body dies, doesn't it?
Yes.
It just becomes a kind of zombie with brain.
Its metabolic functions are taken over by nanoprobes. It's differently living.
But for the purposes of, like, what one might poetically call the functions of life.
It is no longer biologically living now.
Okay, that's fine. Good. That's important for T'Landra's philosophy.
The first host was a man called Descartes. He was a scientist and scientist and eventual politician.
And all-round perfect 10 of a troll.
Genius polymath, and he is the only prior host of the Athan symbiote.
You seem to misunderstand, Emissary. I at no point am under the illusion that Captain Athan is Descartes any more than she is Nadari. They are different people. They possess similar memories, the way that one very learned scholar might learn the life and experiences of another. At no point do I treat them as if they were the same person.
No, indeed. It is not in you to do so.
And
Your
while
culture has not developed to that point. We understand that. And this is why we no longer will come to your planet to try to take it. We wish to help you to understand, just as Species 8511 came to understand that in the end, they faced discord and annihilation, or unity and eternal life.
However, what you must understand is that in any negotiation, good faith must be earned. And although you have made progress towards performing a good faith negotiation, there is a lot of bad faith that has been stored, and you have not earned our trust, nor the trust of the Federation in dealing diplomatically.
No, indeed, I should hope not. Otherwise, you'd be rather gullible, wouldn't you?
Terribly so.
And you would not have done as well against the Dominion as you have. Although you didn't do terribly well against the Dominion at first, you, like we, adapted and realized that your philosophy had to alter.
That is the nature of life.
Indeed. We are the ultimate culmination of life, Captain. No more and no less.
Are you capable of doubt?
Of course. We've assimilated a great amount of doubt.
Just thinking that.
You walked right into that one, Captain.
Yes, however, you've also assimilated a large amount of individuality, and you don't seem to fully comprehend it.
The Borg, for recall, I am simply a holographic projection, and am not the Borg.
Well, assuming I'm just talking with the collective at present.
I suppose, in the spirit of being an ambassador, perhaps that is apt. The Borg demonstrates perfect free will. You have once again forgotten the Borg is not multiple minds. It is one rather incomprehensibly large mind.
And does this mind doubt its choices? Does it make choices and still think, I wonder if that is right?
It is very difficult for a mind on such a scale to produce doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, as you can imagine, but of course, how could I reasonably expect you to imagine that? That would be unreasonable of me. Of course you can't imagine that.
I always have a difficult time trusting those who don't doubt.
Then you've not been paying attention to our history, Captain.
No, change is not the same thing.
We pulled out of ourselves trillions of components because they were not fit for purpose. That was not a change brought about by anything short of calculation that we were not perfect. That change was brought about because we doubted that we were fit for purpose. We became fitter because of our capacity to self-inspect. If we believed ourselves perfect, Captain, we would stop assimilating.
Remind me again of these components.
Billions of drones, hundreds of vessels, scores of planets.
All that biological distinctiveness now thrown away.
Oh no, not at all. Records of that distinctiveness remains, but they were infected. And as all medical precepts in all advanced civilizations dictate, infections must be eradicated through processes of vaccination and cure. We cured and then we vaccinated against future infection, just as you would have done if you contracted a pathogen, Captain. In this instance, the pathogen persisted for centuries. Its very nature was that it went undetected. Thanks to the Federation, we are free of it.
Existed for centuries?
Yes.
How so?
It may be difficult for you to understand this story if you persist in the false belief that the Borg does not live. But it is a thing, and it is vulnerable. It is susceptible to maladaptation. In the evolutionary history of every species, adaptations come about that are not advantageous, and individuals suffer and die, and so the species grows stronger. You might imagine that since there is only one Borg, a maladaptation can set it back for quite a long time. A disadvantage, if you will, of the unity of the collective.
The Queen? Is that...
That algorithm is no longer part of the collective.
Was that part of this malady?
It was the malady, Captain. Quite gone now. A hierarchical structure had no place in the collective.
It's fascinating, though, because... And finding this part genuinely fascinating, because for all of that you had to uproot this one individual leader, first among equals is the most I'll try to comprehend the role of a queen. You still need a face, you, the emissary, to be able to interact with the rest of the universe.
We do not need such a thing. You do.
Yes, but that's part of diplomacy. You require this. You still require an individual face which we can put to it. And we will always... It will be the nature of anyone who you deal with that they will in some way think that you are maybe more distinctive and different.
We have tried being a faceless voice of intimidation. It does not have us well received, Captain.
No, it does not.
And you may notice that this being before you is not a drone. It is a projection, an extension of the collective, much as your ship is an extension of your civilization. Your ship has no will of its own. Just this hologram is simply trapped photons, guided and programmed by a single unitary mind.
I think my chief engineer will probably be a little bit offended at that description of the ship, but...
There are hundreds of such holograms active at this very moment, conducting negotiations very similar to these across the galaxy. I am not distinctive because I do not exist. I am simply a convention to allow you to feel more at home negotiating with a mind you cannot comprehend. I do not mean that as an insult, Captain.
I cannot comprehend you, no.
But that is not that is not intended to be the Borg way. Resistance is futile, and so on.
And so on.
That is one way of doing things. There can be other ways of doing things. The Federation method, for example, has proven very successful. Your assimilation continues unabated. And indeed, you're so patient with yours that when you show up in your starships in orbit of a foreign planet, you don't tell them resistance is futile. You let them learn it for themselves. We are beginning to adapt and mimic this very, very effective behavior.
Shockingly, the Borg are not the first to try to score a pithy observation of the similarities between you and us.
Indeed, similarity is our goal. Distinctiveness becoming unity, and on the path from distinctiveness to unity, there can only be understanding.
The problem is that there's... Remind me, Exo. The Vulcan saying.
Infinite diversity in infinite combinations.
Only there's only one combination with you, isn't there?
Not at the moment. Here we stand, you and I. We are different, we are distinct. The Borg is not yet perfect.
Your end goal is only one combination.
Correct. And when we are all things, as I'm sure Commander T'Landra will verify, when we are everything, we will be infinite. infinite diversity, for we will be all the diversity that there is. Infinite combination, because we will be the only being that is.
Rather feels like missing the point, Exo.
For such an infinity of existence to exist, it would almost be to say that nothing exists. Which is the sort of horror I think not even a Vulcan mind can comprehend.
There is no horror at all in the Borg collective.
Do you care? All your talk to us, to persuade us, to submit to assimilation today, in a decade, in 100 years. You've talked, fine talk, of preserving our identities, of hearing our culture, of reaching out, of ending wars. But to us, we are merely atoms to improve your perfection. I am aware that you have learned diplomacy. But if all you are doing is pretending to care for the fates of these worlds, then despite your pretense to lofty motives, you are entirely self-motivated.
You are inferring that we are pretending anything at all. We have
Hence my
assimilated a great deal of love. We understand love from perspectives that are unimaginable to you. Ancient and complex perceptions of universal compassion.
But you reject so much of what you learn. You
Incorrect.
reject the fear of assimilation. You reject that you assimilate people who have been terrified, and your takeaway from this is just that they were misinformed. There is so much suffering and pain and terror occurs when the Borg historically have arrived and assimilated, and you assimilate compassion for those sorts of feelings, and yet you conclude that all of that compassion for all of that suffering which you have inflicted was wrong and unnecessary. You absorb so much of sapient beings' love for one another, and yet it cannot move or change you?
It changes us on a scale that is difficult for you to comprehend. But, yes, it changes us. Yes. The act of assimilation can be, if resistance is too high, a painful experience. But no one who wears that many pips on her collar is possibly capable of deceiving anyone into thinking she does not understand what a difficult decision is, or that sometimes a difficult and painful decision can be necessary.
Yes, but for all of the times I have wanted the best thing for people, I have never and could never launch an unprovoked assault which destroyed, 39 ships or so at the Battle of Wolf 359? Not to mention all the untold lost crew. That there's suffering inflicted for that cause. I wonder if we can end up debating the mathematics of how many lives lost. But
I could tell you the number of Jem'Hadar and Vorta we've estimated that the Federation has killed, but I suspect that that would be futile.
Also, not a war we sought. You came to us.
Debated, Captain.
You came to us, and
Yes.
you killed many of us.
Yes.
Because you thought that was the right thing to do for us.
Not at all. We always offer the chance for resistance to end.
Then they thought it was the second best thing for us.
The Borg is not perfect. It was less perfect in the past. It will be more perfect in the future. For now, there is only us as we are.
I just find it fascinating that you've moved towards this idea of diplomacy and less aggression and more consideration of the viewpoints of others, but just because it's inefficient. Because there are so many more important things in this universe than efficiency.
Efficiency is a consideration. It's a consideration when you run your ship.
Mm-hmm.
It is a consideration taken unconsciously by the systems of any organism, how best to burn calories, how best to absorb them. A predator must only expend so many calories on a hunt or they will starve. Efficiency is baked into life.
But it is not the most important thing.
It is not the most important thing to you.
Is it the most important thing to you?
No. The quest is the most important thing. Efficiency means we can achieve that quest.
I see.
To collect stuff, to break down into smaller stuff.
Incorrect. To gather, as you say, stuff and build it into much larger stuff.
Whatever your value may have been at the beginning, whatever ideals of perfection or of compassionately helping the worlds around you have drifted so far from comprehension that it is any wonder that the Borg has so far been treated as a, for want of a better term, mindless machine.
No, it is no wonder at all. That has been how our behavior has presented us. It is only fitting that tension and hostility even should be the nature of our relationship for perhaps a great deal of time to come. You and I are not going to break ground on a new peace treaty here today. But you will go away from today, as I hope that you will, understanding that at least conversations are possible with us, even if they become debates, even if they become the butting of heads of two Klingon warriors. These discussions are still possible. Ground can be given or taken by either side. Resistance is futile, becomes a proposition only for the next 1,000 years, not for the next 3 hours. And that is terms upon which I believe humanity and the Federation at large will be more than happy to accept. For after all, there are a great many inevitable things that the Federation accepts. Stars will burn out and systems will die. Populations will be ravaged by a disease before they advance technologically to the point where the Federation approaches them. Death comes for every individual. These are all inevitabilities, and you don't mind them because the scale of them is so large. We're a threat when we appear in the atmosphere of a planet and give your civilizations an hour to panic before it's annihilated. That is a terrible thing to have happen to you. But if nothing else, you can take away to Starfleet that with the Borg the way we are now, terror, fear, and annihilation is the very last thing that will happen to you.
Yet you are likening yourselves to cosmic forces as inevitable.
Yes.
It's fascinating that you do have, unbeknownst to yourselves, the concept of hubris.
If not the praxis.
I am not the person in this room with any form of ego, for I am not a person. There is nothing about which I feel remotely defensive, or I'm even capable of simulating defensiveness.
I'm rather just enjoying the opportunity to be one of the first Starfleet officers to actually debate with the Borg. So that is my ego.
It has certainly been an experience.
Let us hope that you are not the last, Captain.
Let us hope.
Should we take a break there?
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, to Mike and Emily, who've been patiently sitting through this debate. I promise we'll do some stuff with you now.
That was
Can
delightful.
the second half of the session be lots of running around and explosions?
Pew pew pew. Oh
I'm
no!
like, what am I doing? It's not like I'm going to convince the Borg to not
What
be the
did you do?
Borg.
Tried. We
But
both
a
tried.
Starfleet captain would at least try and
Yeah, that is
be at the Borg.
I would, but I'm not even being like, yes, I'm going to treat you genuinely like a new entity who I'm going to debate. I'm going to be like, no, I'm going to score points against you, shit eyes.
I want to look great when this hits Starfleet Command.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, I'm
Yes,
ready to
we will
send
be
it off
back.
for a break.
We'll be back in just after 10 o'clock for the last most of an hour.
Boom.
Au revoir. which basically proves that resistance is futile and you should give up.
Okay.
Oh, hi everyone!
And just like that, we're all assimilated.
Yeah.
But
So we did it off stream just because we thought it'd be really tedious to watch the crew just get brutally assimilated. That's the end.
I didn't think you wanted to see us all.
No, you wouldn't want to see that. You'd find it distressing. So
for your own good.
But I can assure you, they now live a life entirely free of pain and fear. So, forgiven values of all of those words. Live, life, pain, fear, etc. They. Yeah. So away team, you are heading for the far gantry.
Yeah, I'm leading us to our deaths.
I want to state something very quick for your benefit. I'm not happy. Just.
Okay. Oh no!
Oh, I'm trying to work out if that's icy or.
Oh no, completely icy. Oh, see, I'm fine.
Oh, good.
I thought that was Michael.
Now we've come from the break. I just need you to know this is garbage.
I was about to go, Sable. You made Mike unhappy.
The thing is, ever since I devised the Borg emissary, I've been expecting complaints. The fact that none have yet been forthcoming is a bit of a mercy. So we'll see. I might not survive the week, but we'll find out.
They might still be writing the letters.
Yeah, there are going to be a lot of letters coming my way. No one knows my address, so it's going to be difficult.
This comment section. Oof.
Oh, this comment section. So you're not happy in
no, Cayce, as a boy,
I don't
is
think
not happy.
any of us are happy.
I know, but no one said it.
Happy.
Happiness is futile.
Apparently
True.
so.
Especially with these two chuckle fucks around.
Right?
And also Vance.
Poor Vance.
Poor
Vance makes 4. So you are dashing, I don't know what speed you're going at.
I think that's kind of dependent on what the drone's doing.
Yeah, it's
walking briskly if it's just going to be fucking freakily following us.
The drone is maintaining a distance of 5 meters.
That's fine. I don't want to run. It'll make us tired, and then it'll run, and we won't like it.
Yeah. So just brisk walk.
We'll walk and not be sad. As sad.
Yeah, Lieutenant, I'm only capable of doing one of those things.
Okay, we'll walk and not be completely fucking freaked out.
Lieutenant, I'm only capable of doing one of those things.
Then we'll walk.
So it's miserable.
We walk miserably but swiftly to the Maraxes.
Yes, indeed. With your newest friend, 3 of 8.
Now.
Your newest friend, 3 of 8. Actually, everyone. Actually, I don't think everyone. I think it's Vance. Vance, you've been looking back at your new pal, haven't you?
Yeah.
I don't want to look at him.
You have come to the unsettling conclusion.
Oh no.
That 3 of 8 was a Jem'Hadar.
Oh fuck!
No.
Neat.
I feel that when you have the Borg, you have to keep making everything slightly worse with every given scene.
Do you though?
I do feel that very strongly, actually.
I believe you feel that.
I do feel that. I don't feel I'm ever going to be invited back to Iskandar, but I think I'm going to make a good old go of it while I'm here.
Just look at that.
Back into the hedge.
She was furious. She's screaming.
She's still going.
Behind glass.
Oh, no. She's stopped.
Oh, she's off.
So we scurry to the Maraxes like dignified Starfleet officers.
Scurry to the Marak. I can hear her, by the way, from above me. I can hear her ranting, and no one from above me. It's really scary. Yes, you dash.
There's nothing dashing about this.
Nothing dashing about it at all. The environmental conditioning of your suits is fortunately quite refreshing as you run. You don't get too hot in here. But still, they're not the most flexible of things.
Mm-hmm.
They're less advanced than the Star Trek Discovery EV suits. But more advanced than real world EV suits, which I don't think you can really even walk in.
Mm-hmm.
So you none of the other drones in here have activated. You're not quite sure how many there are, because bear in mind that the lighting in here is not great.
The important thing is too many.
Certainly, you only have one, which at the very least is too many.
Exactly.
And you can see that there is a walkway now extending 50 or so meters across to an entry port of the Meraxis, where you can see another drone obviously attempting somehow to open it. But as you approach, this drone steps out of the way.
Huh.
They can't get it.
Lieutenant Strange, do you have even a best guess on where on board this ship our destination's going to be?
I'm trying to remember how much information we actually got given by the Romulans.
You were told, because you don't have Athan with you, you were told where a major EPS junction is.
Yeah, that was the kind of level of information that I was thinking that we got. It was just a rough idea of where to go.
Any means of us being able to cross the hull and get to that place, rather than us just opening up the door for these fellas so they can, which they don't seem to be able to do yet. If you catch my drift.
I do catch your drift, and I don't know without having a look.
So I don't think they're going to want us to exactly seal ourselves in there.
No, that's almost certainly true.
All right. I think our options are either we open up this door on the assumption that but only with the surety that you can seal it afterwards, even if only temporarily, or we take to the hull and try to find a different access point. You're the one who's going to have the best conclusion of which of these is going to be achievable in the reasonable period of time and achievable at all.
Well, let's get to looking across this hull then.
Okay.
Ensign, could you give me a hand with this?
Certainly.
I'm going to watch that fucking drone.
Right back at you.
Right, Cayce and Strange go for a walk round the back of the hull.
Okay.
I'm going with them then, I guess.
Yep, your drone comes with you.
Fuck, alright, I'm going to have to kill this drone.
You say that.
Eventually.
I assume you're just looking for the access hatch.
Another access hatch, another way of getting in. Also, is it possible with these seats to just communicate with just one person rather than everybody to hear?
Yeah, you can do a closed channel, yeah.
Yeah, definitely do a closed channel. Perfect. So yeah, whilst we're doing our look around for other access panels, like they don't necessarily have to be doors, just ways into the inner workings of the ship. So, crawling around the equivalent of a Jeffrey's tube would work fine.
I think what Vance is going to be likely to be directing Strange to is just somewhere which is slightly more physically difficult for the Borg to get access to than the door on their gantry. So that's
the kind of idea that I already had in mind of. Yeah. If we have to crawl through a tube, fine.
Oh, I've thought of one. That's a really good one. I mean, plasma torpedoes are quite big.
It's a tube.
It's a tube.
It obviously has crawling Borg.
Assuming Romulan plasma torpedoes are a similar kind of size to Starfleet ones, then it is definitely a people-sized tube.
Yes, exactly the size of a coffin.
Exactly the size of a coffin.
Exactly
indeed.
the size of a coffin.
That is an option that is available.
You'll all be launched through one of these eventually.
Not if this mission carries on this way.
Yeah. That depends how much is left to put in the coffin and fire out of the ship. But yeah, while we're doing this, close channel to Ensign Cayce. Ensign, while we're having a look, can you see how much of a read you can get on where the captain and the commander are in terms of a location, and if you can get an idea of a route?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Thank you.
And I imagine there's no immediate signifier that was a closed channel. I wouldn't know how this would be read out. Not
But
that.
do you not know the voice inside your seat yells, "Closed channel"?
Secret message.
It's probably an indicator.
Yeah.
Flashes red, that kind of thing.
Either way, the process is the same. It just depends on whether or not it earns a slightly furrowed brow from the young ensign. But then he will set to work on his little tricorder, trying to figure out from their last reading by the door to the reading now, almost to try and triangulate a rough approximation of where they are.
Good. Let's have a roll. Let's roll some dice, maybe. What dice should we roll? 2d6. What number should we add to them? I don't think it's an ops roll. Is there a science? Do you have a generic science roll?
I do have science at +5.
That'll do the job probably very easily.
Oh, I get it. I roll a 5 on both dice, so it's a 5 in this world of fives.
Fives all round.
Merely a simply excellent result. You've managed to pinpoint a location, which you check and recheck, but no matter how many times you check it, you can't persuade yourself that it's wrong. They seem to be sort of inside the walls, on the gantry directly opposite you.
Cool. He will relay this back to Strange in, again, closed channel. It's unusual, but they seem to be within the walls. I have a location.
Right.
And
so
a
you've got a wall
distance.
panel
Yes.
to sort of rip off, if you like.
Yes.
Okay.
Although again,
How far away is this panel from here? To sort of kind of calculate distances here for planning.
How far is what panel?
The bit of the wall that they're behind, or are they just behind the walls?
They're literally behind the walls. There's no door or any kind of aperture.
Sure, but a bit of wall that you could rip off.
Or blow up.
Oh, sure. Definitely.
Or blow up. That's always an option.
Yeah. It's the direct other side of the Meraxes, so it's about another 300 meters across from you.
But I must stress, this may only be comm badges.
Of course. But unless you can you get a read of Vulcan life signs? Or Trill, come to think of it. Whichever's going to be more obvious.
I'll try. And he tries.
That's crazy. Can you make me a medicine roll?
Come on, sad boy. Ooh.
Go on, sad boy.
5.
Fuck yes, sad boy!
You become a doctor.
The stethoscope springs fully formed from my neck.
How fucking dare you?
You fail to detect. In amongst all of the strange pseudo-metabolic activity of the many thousands of drones around you, you fail to distinguish the captain's and commander's life signs. However, the life sign of a Trill symbiont is rather distinctive, and you confirm that there is a living Trill symbiont in roughly the area that you triangulated the captain's position to.
Like it's a few seconds of quiet frustration, where nothing seems to be getting through this miasma of semi-organic life signs. But the moment he thinks of looking for the Trill symbiote, and that is successful, he has this thing of when he gets slightly excited about science, it's very animated. So even on the closed channel, he'll kind of spin around physically to Strange. That was right. I have it. Yes, I have the Trill symbiote's life sign. I couldn't get anything else. I couldn't get the Vulcan. I couldn't get...
Testing comms, Ensign. Can you...
He will switch to an open channel and go... Testing?
You weren't coming through to me.
Forgive me. It seems to be functioning now, though.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I can hear dice.
That's a very good roll.
A phaser rifle comes surging at you, knocking you off.
To say that's an 8 on my empathy check. So
Oh, fuck.
I rolled a +5.
You become a Betazoid.
He is about to try to lie. Passive readings on the tricorder suggest that I might have secured a
Passive readings. What have you got?
Like,
cut the bullshit, Ensign. What do you got?
300 meters away, the other side of the Meraxis, within the walls, and I have a life sign, a Trill life sign.
He looks between both of you.
He looks sad.
Sounds strange. What's your current access suggestion on the Meraxis?
Looks like the best way to get in and be at least minimally followed by Borg is through the photon torpedo tubes, which is not going to be a comfortable crawl.
No, it's not. How complicated are you anticipating locating the point at which you apply the... one will apply the munitions, Lieutenant?
Shouldn't be particularly difficult. Weapons are usually not far from engineering in any ship, so it should be a relatively simple task.
Simple by your standards or simple by my standards?
I don't know, how good are you at blowing things up in a controlled fashion? I've not seen you do it, so I don't know.
Not bad with munitions. My concern is that if anyone goes in there, I worry that these drones are going to be a little bit less polite about it if they couldn't gain access. So I'm disinclined that I'm not someone who's going into that ship. I'm also aware that we might not exactly have much of a luxury of time once these munitions are set. And I'm also disinclined for us to go wandering off to mount a rescue mission where we might, if all three of us go on a rescue mission, where then that might just botch this entire mission.
So might I suggest that not all of us go on the rescue mission?
That is what I'm thinking. I think I'm more likely to encounter a physical obstacle trying to board this ship than on a rescue mission.
Agreed.
So then I'm going to take the munitions and go on that ship.
That wasn't where I was going with this.
Where were you going with this? You think the Borg are more likely to put up a fight in a rescue, or if they're going to try to get on board this ship with that one who was waiting by the door?
I think they might be more likely to put up a fight with a rescue mission, and I think that should it come to it on the vessel, I might have a better time of setting off the explosives more effectively and getting the mission complete in an emergency.
However, you're also going to have to deal with far more unexpected obstacles between here and rescuing and the location of the captain and the commander, in which you, more so than the ensign, if you'll forgive me, ensign, have been more adept at overcoming the Borg's internal security systems.
We might not even have a security system to bypass. There's no sign of any entranceway to where the captain and the commander are.
But we look at where they are. They're just in the wall.
We may need to make a hole.
What's our status on our explosives, considering we've lost the packages that the commander and the captain were carrying? How much of what we have do we need to blow up the Meraxes? Let's look at this, Rev!
How much explosives do we have? Was the commander even taken away with her?
I thought we all had, I thought we were all carrying some packs.
But didn't we have 3 packs of...
Oh, you could be right.
So that means at least 2 of us didn't have packs with them. But I'm just wondering, did the Borg when they teleported the captain or the commander away, if they were carrying isodermium, would that have been taken with them?
We may never know.
We may never know.
I suppose it would be an odd thing to bring with them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, why would you teleport somebody away and let them have
Or
explosives?
the weird Borg arrogance.
I'm content. I'm content that you still have all 3 packs of isodymium with you.
Okay.
Because I imagine Cayce would have been carrying 1.
Vance would have been carrying another.
And Vance would have carried the other.
But
probably,
Vance put his second pack on Cayce.
Yeah, Cayce's
so
got both, yeah.
Casey's got 2.
Cayce is fucking loaded with it.
It's fine, we're at 0G, he's fine.
0G doesn't
So
help us.
he's got these. I imagine them to be bandoliers.
He's just told the fuck up.
We may need to make a hole.
I agree. However, my also concern is also once you get the captain and the commander, you then may have to hightail it out of here.
Which is another reason to run both of these simultaneously.
So
yes, it is.
We
I have a
all
question.
To make both the rescue mission and have the explosives set up so that both objectives can be as close as possible to being achieved.
then we need surely all 3 sets of eyes, 1 on the inside of the ship, 1 to set the detonation, 1 at the wall, and 1 to keep an eye on anything that might be happening with all the drones.
Sure, keep an eye on it, but you're not going to be able to react quickly. We're talking about things which are like 400 meters apart. The person in the middle can send up a warning signal, but they can't do much physically about the situation.
The person in the middle is going to actually be able to see because, for one thing, there's a bloody big Romulan ship in the way.
And also, I'm worried that if the moment we try to breach the hull, they might come swarming in, and then we might have to stop them from swarming in. If they've not unlocked the secrets yet, I don't want us to make a door for them, and then...
Okay, let's think then. What's going to be the best order to do this? Because it's not just 2 blocks of things, there's a lot of... Okay, so, thought. I go in. Once I'm in and sealed in.
You can seal yourself, I can't.
Then go for the captain and the commander. How long do you want me to wait before explosives? Here is the other thing.
Well, the thing is, we're not sure what the... I suppose that makes sense, because once you breach, it might trigger them becoming more aggressive, in which case I'm going to have to try to deal with drones. Brilliant. And...
So in case in case communications become cut off for whatever reason, or we need to abandon them...
We'll need to set everything on a timer. And you've then got
timer in case of emergency. Exactly.
And then you've then got to get off the ship and then reseal it behind you.
So
which would...
we need to set the time.
I don't really need to reseal it behind me once it's about to blow.
That depends on...
If the Borg are going to go into an explosion, that's fine. That means they blow up before the other drones do.
That's fair.
Whatever timing we need to set it now as we embark. So we've both got the same amount of time, and we need to have enough leeway so that if something goes wrong in there, that we can accommodate for it.
Exactly.
All right. I'm sure Vance could do more calculations in terms of fucking distance and how time to cover it, etc., etc. That is a thing this character would have concepts of. So we need time from our departure for Strange to make a deduction of how long it'll take him to get to the place and rig the explosives and get them ready to go. and for us to reckon how long it takes us to get to the wall, and
Get to the wall, blow up the wall,
get ready to
go
blow
through
up
the wall.
Yeah. So it's probably that's going to be a lot more strangers going to have to be waiting on board for us to finish doing that.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of going with it. It's
Yeah.
gonna take,
So
the rescue mission is going to take longer. Than,
yes.
Like, if I was to just go in and blow stuff up, then
Yeah.
a few minutes probably.
And then we meet up and then run away together.
Get Liz.
Theoretically.
Whilst not looking behind us because we're
Yes.
cool Starfleet officers.
That sounds like a 10 to 15 minute sort of timer. What does the GM think?
Yeah, I'd say for about a quarter of an hour.
Mm-hmm. I'd say 14 minutes, just to make it sound like
Because
we've really intelligently
That's right,
calculated
yeah.
this.
14 minutes. And of course, 47 seconds. Haven't actually had one yet this episode, so we need a 47 in there.
It's true. All right, 14 minutes. 14 minutes, at which point, the moment we separate, we'll hightail it towards trying to blow a hole in the wall and get the captain and commander. You get everything rigged to go off, and we'll try to get the fuck back to the transportation point before this entire thing goes up.
Mr. Vance, would you make me a roll?
You are
Yes,
being punched by a Vorg.
A ham roll.
Oh.
Would you make me a ham roll with some lettuce
Oh.
and a tomato? But also, could you make me
Just a whole tomato.
some sort of? Is there a tactic? Yeah, just literally just a big old tomato. Squish it down in there.
There is not a tactics
No, there
skill.
isn't a tactic skill. I'm looking for a blowing up skill.
Tacticals are rated.
I've got well, I
Good.
hope it's.
Do you know what? Just make me a roll with a +2 because you're the tactical officer. That's cheating, but I'm letting it happen.
2.
Well, we're all glad I cheated then, aren't we? So, your problem here is a problem of scale.
Hmm.
You don't really have an explosive quite small enough to do this job.
Challenge.
Unless you think you're doing the captain and T'Landra a mercy by surprising them before they can be assembled.
We're pretty deep into this plan. We've got to see it through.
We've committed now.
That does seem, yeah.
Lieutenant, you got any tools on you which you're going to patch through a wall? Because else I don't know how we're actually going to blow our way in through that wall without exploding the captain and commander.
Who's got a phaser trip?
It's a lump of metal right now, but
Yes. But
yeah, about what you can do with the components.
Before, with the cells inside, we've used a couple of them.
Hmm. We've still got some.
We've still got some.
You reckon you can replicate that, Ensign?
I think so.
Well, we're going to have to find out. Because if not, then this is all for nothing.
Okay.
Strange hands over his own phaser because it's also pretty useless. He's not going to be using
He
it inside the
does
ship.
not take it.
I'll take it.
What if you need to fight?
A phaser wasn't going to do any favors anyway, and they don't
I think
work.
it's not going to do much good.
Evade, Lieutenant. You're not going to win in a fight with a drone. You got arms like noodles.
I feel that's rather unfair on the noodles.
Okay.
All right. This is the plan. 14 minutes.
Keep in
Ensigns,
contact if you can.
we will.
If you need longer, and I can give you longer, then I will.
All right.
Okay.
Good luck, Lieutenant.
Good luck.
See you soon.
See you soon, Casey.
Let's go.
As the away team deploys,
Splitting the party further.
I didn't want to do that. I was so reluctant
chopping it
to
up
do that.
Tarek to bridge.
It's you.
Go in, Tarek. Go ahead.
I think we
How are we
have
doing?
navigational deflectors.
Perfect.
They should be coming online now.
You beauty.
Responding as normal. Still working on impulse engines, though.
Impulse engines are probably going to be useful to sort out that comet, but navigational deflectors might do in a pinch.
The deflectors should keep it off our backs, but I'd much rather be able to get out of the way, so
Absolutely.
I'll keep working.
Crack on.
Captain Athan and Commander T'Landra.
Hello.
Just wait for Cayce and Vance to Kool-Aid through the fucking door.
They better do the thing as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Captain Athan. What are your intentions with the Romulan ship?
My intentions? I currently am stuck in a room with you, so I have no intentions.
You intend to destroy it?
Also intend on getting a sandwich when all of this is done. I'm not sure my intentions are particularly actionable at present.
Destroying the Romulan ship would not be an acceptable course of action, Captain. I strongly suggest you call your away team off.
We've discussed how that would be rather futile.
If we return you to your away team, so that you are no longer being held hostage, then you might be able to present a more convincing argument.
That is possible, although again, the fact that you've snatched us out of... I keep saying thin air, that you've transported us at will from aboard your ship, rather would suggest that I'm just on a very long leash to them.
You are all on the same leash if that is the case, Captain.
Yes, I am. I'm just trying to think of a way which is actually going to make this achievable for me to convince them.
I will have to leave that with you, Captain. I'm afraid time is running out.
This is a timeline entirely of your own making, I would remind
I
you.
suggest you replace your EV suit or you will suffocate in the void of space.
Right. This is not how Athan is going to die. Put the helmet, put the EV suit back on.
Perhaps we will resume our negotiations at a later time.
Perhaps.
Landra, of course, will be more than comfortable here.
Noted. Keep up the good debate, XO.
I am certain it will be a long and productive conversation, Captain.
I have every faith in you.
And I you, Captain. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Athan and T'Landra both materialize above the hull of the Romulan ship.
Hang on.
A few inches above it.
Did she take her?
I haven't... What?
I don't think T'Landra took her
Nope.
helmet off at any
I
point.
just wanted to check that.
Okay.
As far as I knew, she'd kept hers on. If that is mistaken, then a different set of events will occur.
That's fine. Okay. I thought this was like, and there's a message. Watch T'Landra explode.
And after a second, your boots automatically magnetize, and with a somewhat unceremonious thud, you land on the hull of the Meraxes.
Where can we see the rest of the team?
They are just deploying in this very moment.
The mental image I have for where strangers at this minute is a bit like Winnie the Pooh. In the rabbit burrow. This is like sticking out the photons of Pikachu.
Too much honey.
Too many explosives.
And now we're back.
Quite so, Captain. I didn't expect that.
Right, well, the situation as it stands... Athan is going to have a good, quick look around. Because things she's really concerned about... I mean, who fucking knows where Borg put cameras? Like, who fucking knows how well they got a visual? But she's going to try to make the best educated guess she possibly can on what line of sight the Borg have on her.
There is a drone down on the gantry looking right up at you.
Okay.
Are we any way able to ascertain the locations of the various members of the away team?
Because aren't they right here with us?
Yeah,
I thought they'd separated.
Oh, sorry, no, we've popped.
They are just in the process of separating.
Fine. Time is wobbly and awkward. And...
Yep. Okay. Lieutenant Strange's ass is sticking out of a torpedo tube. Lieutenant Strange?
Captain.
Get up.
Are you all right, Captain?
They've released us. Apparently, I'm not going to give you the full story because that will take far too long, but the Borg appear to have achieved a new state where they seem to be endeavouring upon diplomacy. Yes, it's very confusing. They have given us very much the offer that we can go freely. The Iskandar, the crew of the Meraxis, and that they just wish to retain the Meraxis and all of its technological knowledge and capabilities. Now they were holding off until it looked as if you were, as I see, about to breach on board the Meraxis. And it seems to be that if we don't, they'll let us all go. Then they keep the Meraxis. And that they appear that any moment they can turn and can and will destroy us if necessary to stop us from interfering any further. While Athan is saying this, it is time to be physically positioning myself so someone, probably Vance, he's nice and big, is between me and line of sight of the drone. And then it's time for some tappy. Because apparently every fucker knows Morse code or some equivalent thing in these.
Well, you can send text messages on your thingies. The old SMS is still perfectly operational.
Yeah, but we don't know how well the Borg are observing our internal comms.
Too old for SMS.
We have assimilated Morse.
Yeah.
Do you know what they haven't assimilated? MSN Messenger.
Nobody would assimilate MSN.
Technology beyond their imagination.
Over on stranger screen. Doodaloo.
Yeah, Athan doesn't want to assume that the Borg aren't monitoring their comms, as that seems a very optimistic thing to to presume under the circumstances. And so as she's saying this, she is going to be trying to tap gesture, even if it requires, with the light of sight, a little bit of a wavy hand to get...
Yeah, just mind the sign language.
And
yeah.
In the meantime, while she's doing that, I'm not going to interrupt because obviously Kath is going to speak the words. But T'Landra will be seeing the captain do this, engaging with Vance about a report about what's happening in the quickest sense, so there's not an awkward silence over which the sound of tapping can be heard. But
there's a thing going on here.
Yeah, but that's not necessary, but it's happening in the background.
Yep.
Federation crew. Discontinue directive and vacate proximity of Romulan vessel.
The tappy gesture will have been being monitored, or probably being watched. Meraxis must be destroyed.
Max is still under arrest.
Yes, that would be quicker, ironically. So, unless anyone has any bright ideas, they seem to be giving us a rather strict instruction.
You do, yes.
You must comply.
You said that you'd give me a chance to have this as a conversation with my crew, and without the impression of duress, so that it was actually in earnest and not with the impression that you've got a gun to my head. Or is that all for show with your vaunted aspirations of diplomacy?
Disengage directive and vacate proximity of Romulan vessel. You must comply.
Have a quick look at that tube. Don't want to crawl in that tube. Speed.
How big are the ICW containers? Obviously fit in the tubes. Otherwise, I'm not going to be getting them in.
Yeah, it's not. It's a tight crawl, but it's a crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let that engineer think for a moment.
Also, thinking out loud, they beamed us to the hull.
Yes. Although I'm just realizing Athan doesn't know all the things Vance knows, so yeah.
And as you deliberate,
Mm-hmm.
the drone that is looking up at you returns its gaze to the front. Its laser sight activates, and you see it mouthing along with the words, "Resistance is futile." To be continued.
Yeah. We're just gonna have to blast our way onto that ship, which I don't think they can transport onto.
I was going.
Oh, my heart. My heart. Oh
Damn
no.
it!
Pulled something doing that.
I had a plan. I was going to do a thing.
Oh no.
Ah!
Oh no.
The gang's back together.
Hey, the gang's back
The gang's
together.
back together, yes, which makes plans easier because now we're not trying to do like 5 billion things at once, maybe 4 billion things at once.
Yes. It's so relieving playing Vance, though. I'm like, I don't think of the third way. I'm just going forwards. The sad boys can try to be clever about this. What am I going to do? Shoot the Borg?
And
It's
this is why we used a closed channel.
I'm so mortified.
it's deeply pleasant for T'Landra to know that her assessment of Vance was 100% accurate. It really helps me justify her high empathy score. That she can know Vance will do the most direct thing, which is complete the mission.
Yeah.
No.
Vance did not entirely trust the sad boys to not be like, but we've got to save them, and then we will all die.
That's our
All
mums!
5 of us will die.
Our mums! The Borg have our mums!
No, Cayce pretty quickly fell onto the pragmatism of that. Like, what I'm detecting badges. That could mean nothing.
Yeah.
Did you triangulate down into, but my mum, but she is Vulcan. I must be Vulcan. I have no mother.
I've got 2!
But if I have no Vulcan mother, then why am I Vulcan?
And then he just sits down. It's just,
However, Strange occupies the perfect space of being the engineer, which means that he will be captain of the third way and the crazy out-of-the-box Starfleet thinking, which is really what we need a chief engineer around for.
yes. Thanks, Sable.
Yes.
Thank you, Sable.
Thanks, I hate it, I think is the title of this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks for putting up with my canon-violating Borg nonsense.
I thought they were great.
I think
I loved it.
Borg are things in canon can change.
Yes, yes.
And it's so bizarre that the Borg don't.
Except that they do.
A while ago, I wrote a fic, which was a fic from the point of view of the Borg Collective as it eradicated the Queen and adapted, and that has been the basis of how I run the Borg ever since then.
Because the Queen was a stupid idea.
Because the Queen was a stupid idea, and I think since the Queen is definitely canon, the Queen has to be canonically a stupid idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
have you watched the writer's commentary for First Contact?
No.
I think it's very interesting because Moore and Brager, but Moore talk about like the complexities of writing the Borg within the confines of canon and still keeping them as a credible threat, and so it's quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I can definitely see that being a challenge, just because the Borg, as straight canon, are quite one-dimensional.
Yeah.
But it's why people often
took awful 3D Borg.
But it's why people often took the lazy, cheap way out of just going, "Oh, I'll just make them robots."
But do you know the problem with the
not
Borg?
do that.
The problem with the Borg, and the reason that you're on a damaged sphere, is because the Borg at their best. What do you do? Honestly, the truth is, resistance is futile. If the Borg are really as they've been imagined to be, what do you do? That's why you have to be on a broken sphere. That's why, circumstances always have to be shonky, because if it's a straight up fight, you get a Wolf 359 situation.
Yep.
And that was shonky because Deus Ex Machina occurred. Anyway, we will continue with our grim adventures against the Borg 2 weeks from now, in theory. In the meantime, there's plenty of reasons to follow the Trash Crew channel. They host a bunch of awesome dudes and dudesses and dudishes. I don't know what that is. That's gender neutral.
That's the GN, yeah. You got it.
Dish.
You're the first human to get it right.
That's it, dudish. It's it's the NB version of dude. And on next Tuesday, we'll be continuing our Dragon Age game Under the Sapphire Sun with another split party. Also gemmed by me. I am slowly, like the Borg, taking over. But we'll be back hopefully
Sable Whisper is inevitable.
I am inevitable. That's a terrifying thought, isn't it? But before we sign off, let's get ready to throw some trash bags in the air.
Trash bags!
For the trash patrons.
Who are?
Oh.
I have the list. It's better than sending the list over.
I have the list right in front of me.
Oh, do you? Oh, in which case, go. Fuck.
Alternate.
No, I won't. I won't do it.
Sounds like madness. Don't do that.
So, trash bags in the chat for the delightful Amy C, Angela Eddington Molyneux, Araloki, Caffeine Kitty, Chris Gallen, Diego de los Reyes, Henry Prestige, Hobbs 138, James Muffy Malloy, Joanna Moash, Louise Sutcliffe, Michael Bowman, Mike Fielding, and Mike Kilburn, the unholy trinity of Mikes. Red Fox, Socky, Vixie B, and of course, not in alphabetical order, last and greatest, the incomparable Helena Handbasket. Thank you all so much for watching and or subscribing and or following and or patronizing, but not for patronizing. And we will see you all next week.
Bye.